I am Andrew Hayes, 45 years old, an outsider in my wife's prestigious Prescott family in Los Angeles. While my wife's family boasts about financial investments and Hollywood connections, I quietly built MedConnect AI, a healthcare technology company worth millions from scratch. Tonight, at the annual family gathering at the Prescott mansion in Bel Air, I knew I'd face scornful looks and subtle mockery. But I never expected that Eleanor, once my pillar of support, would stand up and declare me cut off from all family privileges right before my assistant called, delivering news that silenced the entire room. Before diving into the story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the latest video. I grew up in Pasadena, a middle-class area with tree-lined streets and Spanish-style homes. My parents, a teacher and a bank clerk, lived frugally to raise me and my sister Sarah. Unlike the Prescotts, we had no mansions or trust funds, but my parents taught me that value lies in hard work and passion. As a kid, I was obsessed with computers, taking them apart in the garage on weekends while friends played basketball or went to movies. When Sarah had to wait months to see a specialist for her chronic illness, I realized how outdated the healthcare system was. That was the seed for MedConnect AI. But back then, I was just a 12-year-old tinkering with code on an old computer. The Prescott family is a world apart. Their Bel Air mansion, with marble columns and windows overlooking Los Angeles' twinkling lights, was once featured in Architectural Digest. George Prescott, my father-in-law, is a seasoned financier who runs a multi-billion-dollar investment fund. He always wears bespoke suits, his deep voice commanding as if every sentence is a major pronouncement. Margaret, my mother-in-law, is a prominent socialite, a Vassar alum who now spends her time organizing charity galas at exclusive clubs. Her social calendar is sacred, and family image is everything. Eleanor, my wife, is the perfect blend of her mother's charm and her father's sharpness. When we met at a tech conference in Santa Monica, she was drawn to my determination. A young engineer with ambition unlike the men in her social circle. But the Prescott family's pressure has dimmed that initial love. Eleanor now frequently reminds me of the opportunities her family could offer, as if my work at MedConnect AI is a fleeting hobby. Eleanor's brother, Philip, is the family's golden child. At 38, he's already the director of his father's investment fund, with an MBA from Stanford displayed in George's office as if it's a family trophy. Philip always appears with perfect hair, a Patek Philippe watch, and a fiancé from a suitable family. Eleanor's sister, Sophia, 29, is the Prescott princess. Married to a promising Hollywood director, every achievement of hers from a charity role to a mention in the Los Angeles Times' society pages is celebrated lavishly. After graduating from Caltech, I worked at a healthcare tech startup in Santa Monica for $70,000 a year, far less than the six figures Philip earned straight out of school. The Prescotts weaponized this at family gatherings. Andrew's still finding his way, Margaret would tell friends, as if I were backpacking in Europe instead of working 60-hour weeks to learn the healthcare tech industry. All that education for a clerk's salary, George joked at Thanksgiving dinner. Sophia would slyly jab, "You're so brave for not caring about money or status, Andrew. I could never be that free." I endured these remarks, quietly observing, learning and planning. The startup world taught me what the Prescotts never understood. Failure is a valuable lesson. Hierarchies can be disrupted. Money is just one form of wealth. And most importantly, I had ideas worth pursuing, whether they approved or not. The idea for MedConnect AI came to me a few years ago during a 3 a.m. coding session in my tiny Culver City apartment. I realized patients with chronic illnesses, like my sister Sarah back then, had to wait months to see specialists, while doctors' schedules had gaps that technology could optimize. The healthcare system operated as if stuck in the 90s, leaving patients underserved. MedConnect AI was born from that, a HIPAA-compliant platform connecting patients to specialists remotely, using AI to optimize appointments based on symptoms, urgency, and doctor availability. It integrates secure video conferencing, medical record sharing, and prescription management, all in one. I withdrew $50,000 from my meager savings, every penny I'd scraped together while paying Los Angeles rent and student loans. That was enough to build a prototype and a business plan. For 6 months I worked days at the startup and built MedConnect AI at night, surviving on coffee and determination. The first major challenge came when seeking investors. Male investors, often middle-aged men in expensive suits, would listen politely to my pitch, then ask if I had a technical co-founder, meaning another man. "Healthcare is complex," one said condescendingly, as if I hadn't studied the industry for years. Another suggested I find an experienced CEO and take a CTO role instead. "You're clearly smart," he said, "but investors need confidence." I pitched to 38 investors before finding someone who believed in MedConnect AI's potential. Laura Chen, a former healthcare executive turned angel investor, gave me $200,000 in seed funding. That was enough to quit my job and hire 3 people, a back-end developer, a UI designer, and Karen Lim. Karen was hired as an administrative assistant but quickly became much more. With experience in healthcare management and a work ethic as fierce as mine, she understood my vision instantly. "This isn't just software," she said during her interview. "It's going to change lives." Within months, Karen became our unofficial COO, though we couldn't afford fancy titles yet. Our first office was a converted storage room in a Culver City co-working space. We worked 7 days a week, often past midnight. When the AC broke during a July heat wave, we worked in casual clothes using frozen beanbags as cooling packs. When we couldn't afford furniture, we sat on cushions and used cardboard boxes as desks. The breakthrough came after 9 months when Cedars-Sinai Medical Center agreed to pilot MedConnect AI in their neurology department. The results exceeded expectations. Patient satisfaction rose 42%, wait times dropped 68%, and specialist utilization efficiency improved 33%. We had real data, numbers that told my story better than any words. More hospitals signed on. Revenue started flowing. We moved to a real office in Culver City and grew the team to 15 point. A Series A round raised $4.5 million, enabling nationwide expansion. A year later, Series B brought in $28 million at a $65 million valuation. All this time I said nothing to the Prescotts. After years of their condescension, I stopped sharing my professional life. They thought I was still at my old startup, maybe with a minor promotion. I fabricated a 1-bedroom apartment when they asked about my living situation, though I'd bought a loft in Brentwood. I drove my old Toyota Camry to family gatherings, leaving my new Tesla in the garage. This secrecy wasn't just for a dramatic reveal, it was self-preservation. I couldn't bear their dismissal of something I poured my heart into. In the weeks leading up to this fateful dinner, MedConnect AI was preparing for an IPO. Goldman Sachs, George's firm, was leading our IPO, with initial valuation talks circling $100 million. We'd grown to 112 employees across 3 offices, securing contracts with over 200 hospitals nationwide. A major publication listed me among the 30 under 50 transforming healthcare, but I kept that article from the Prescott's attention. The night before the dinner, Karen and I met with international investors until 2 a.m. A big deal was brewing. A Japanese investment fund was considering a major pre-IPO investment, potentially pushing our valuation even higher. As I picked a simple suit for the family dinner, I wondered if tonight was the time to reveal my success. I had no idea the Prescotts had their own plans. Tonight, driving my old Toyota Camry to the Prescott mansion in Bel Air, I left my new Tesla in the Brentwood garage. I wore a plain Banana Republic suit instead of the Armani I could afford, preparing for my usual role, the failure in the eyes of my wife's family. Rosa, the Prescott's longtime housekeeper, greeted me with a warm smile. "Everyone's in the living room, having drinks before dinner," she said, taking the $30 bottle of wine I brought instead of the $100 ones in my collection. "Philip's talking about his promotion." "Of course he is." I smoothed my suit, forced a smile, and stepped into the clinking of crystal glasses and polite laughter. The living room of the Prescott mansion in Bel Air, with floor-to-ceiling glass windows overlooking Los Angeles' twinkling lights, is Margaret's pride. Tonight, it's filled with familiar faces. George stands by the fireplace, holding a scotch and pontificating about financial markets. Margaret arranges canapes with a surgeon's precision. Philip animatedly recounts a new deal, while Sophia nods with practiced interest. The surprise appearance is Aunt Beatrice, Eleanor's aunt, who rarely attends these gatherings due to her free-spirited lifestyle. With a colorful scarf and 2 divorces, she's a literature scholar always on the fringes of the Prescott family. Like me. "Andrew, you finally made it," Margaret declares as I enter, making me feel hours late though I'm exactly on time. At 60, Margaret looks a decade younger, thanks to discreet cosmetic tweaks and a rigorous skincare regimen. Her blonde bob is perfectly styled, her navy dress surely fresh from Saks Fifth Avenue. "Hello, Mother," I say, accepting her air kiss. Traffic from Culver City was brutal. "You should consider moving closer to family," she replies, her perennial opening line. "There are lovely apartments in Beverly Hills, so much more convenient." Before I can respond, George's booming voice cuts through. There he is, the computer guy. His mockery is always cloaked in joviality. He raises his scotch toward me but doesn't bother to hug. "Hello, Father," I say, stepping forward to kiss his cheek. "Still at that little startup?" he asks, though he knows what I do, at least nominally. It's his way of signaling my career isn't worth remembering in detail. "Something like that," I reply vaguely. Philip swoops in next, reeking of expensive cologne and privilege. At 38 he's a mini George, from the Rolex to the slightly too firm handshake. "Brother-in-law, I was just telling everyone about my new department," he says, taking a dramatic sip of his martini. 15 people under me, corner office overlooking Santa Monica Bay. But I'm sure your typing or whatever is exciting too, right? Sophia completes the welcome, looking like she stepped out of a J. Crew catalog in a pink dress and pearl strand. Her smug Hollywood director husband is mercifully absent tonight. Andrew, you look so relaxed, she says, eyeing my plain suit. Very fitting for your position. Eleanor, my wife, sits there with her head down, acting as if she doesn't see me. Only Aunt Beatrice offers a genuine hug. At 65, she's everything George isn't. Warm, curious, and indifferent to social hierarchies. Her career in feminist literary research had branded her the black sheep even before me. Don't mind them, she whispered in my ear. How are you really doing? I whispered back, grateful for her presence. Trying to survive here. The pre-dinner ritual continued with Margaret distributing drinks, white wine for the women, scotch for the men, as if we were in a 1950s movie. While George interrogated Philip about market forecasts, Sophia dominated the conversation with details of her wedding, lamenting the difficulty of limiting the guest list to 300. The governor can only attend the reception, not the ceremony, she sighed, as if that were a real hardship. I sipped my wine, nodding at the right moments, wondering what they'd think if they knew I dined with 2 senators last month to discuss healthcare innovation policy, or that the keys I typed had created technology used in hundreds of hospitals. Dinner's served, Rosa announced, rescuing me from the small talk. The Prescott dining room was designed to impress. A long ebony table, crystal chandelier, and ancestral portraits on the walls. Family lore claimed one of them had advised a president, a detail George mentioned whenever possible. We took our assigned seats, George and Margaret at opposite ends, Philip, Eleanor and Sophia on one side, Aunt Beatrice and me on the other. The empty chair beside me once belonged to Eleanor's grandfather, now deceased. I asked Rosa to prepare something special tonight, Margaret declared as the appetizer, lobster bisque, was served. We're celebrating the family's remarkable progress. She raised a toast to Philip's promotion, Sophia's upcoming wedding, and when it came to me, she faltered, clearly unable to find anything to praise. And to family togetherness, she concluded awkwardly. The annual update tradition began, a Prescott ritual where each person shared achievements, but really a bragging contest judged by George and Margaret's nods or frowns. Philip started, detailing his promotion, bonus structure, and how his team handled a complex deal. Margaret probed to highlight his success. And how many other candidates did they pass over for you, darling? Sophia followed, pivoting from wedding plans to her charity work and her husband's political connections. His mentor thinks he could run for Senate before 40, she added with rehearsed humility. As the main course, roast duck with seasonal vegetables, was served, all eyes turned to me. And you, Andrew? George asked, his tone suggesting he expected nothing. Anything new with that computer stuff of yours? I felt my chest tighten, the urge to reveal everything clashing with years of secrecy for self-protection. This was the moment I both dreaded and anticipated. Actually, I began carefully, the healthcare app I'm working on is doing well. We've expanded to multiple hospitals. That's nice, Eleanor cut in, clearly uninterested. Philip, tell everyone about that new vacation home in Malibu you're eyeing. And just like that, I was dismissed. Philip launched into a detailed description of coastal properties while I pushed my duck around the plate, wondering why I still let these slights hurt after all these years. Aunt Beatrice caught my eye across the table, offering a small encouraging smile. She was the only one who sensed I was hiding something. As Rosa cleared the main course plates, George cleared his throat, the Prescott signal for a major announcement. The table fell silent, even Sophia pausing her monologue about wedding flowers. Your mother and I have reviewed the estate plans, he began, swirling the remaining scotch in his glass. With Philip's progress and Sophia's upcoming wedding, it's the right time to adjust the family's financial arrangements. Margaret nodded with practiced solemnity. Clearly this wasn't an impromptu discussion. As you all know, the Prescott name carries certain expectations, George continued. We've always emphasized making choices that honor the family legacy and contribute to its prosperity. A familiar knot formed in my stomach. Whenever George spoke of family legacy, it led to criticism of my lifestyle. Philip will take over the primary portfolio management role for the family next year, he declared, nodding proudly at his son. And after Sophia's wedding, we'll gift her and her husband the Malibu house to start off right. That's a sensible choice, Sophia interjected unnecessarily. My husband's career needs a home with historical value. George turned to me, his expression shifting from pride to coldness. As for you, Andrew, I sat up straighter, sensing the room's atmosphere change. Your mother and I have considered carefully, he went on. Though we've supported your unconventional choices for some time, we've reached a decision. Eleanor set her wine glass down with deliberate precision. We're cutting you off from all family privileges, she declared, as if commenting on the weather. Effective immediately. The words hung in the air. Though I hadn't relied on Prescott money since college, the finality of the statement and its public delivery stung like a slap. The annual stipends, inheritance considerations, access to vacation properties, All of it, George added. Until you prove your choices are worthy of the Prescott name. Worthy choices, I echoed, finding my voice. Meaning abandon my career for something you approve of. Don't be dramatic, Andrew, Sophia chimed in. They just want what's best for you. You're wasting your potential on that little tech thing. The condescension was so thick it was hard to breathe. For years I'd hidden my success, partly to protect myself, partly awaiting the perfect moment. I hadn't expected it to come like this, mid-family dinner, alongside dessert. The atmosphere in the Prescott Mansion's dining room in Bel Air was heavy, like a Los Angeles morning fog. George's declaration, backed by my wife Eleanor, that I was cut off from all family privileges still echoed. So let me get this straight, I said slowly, trying to stay calm despite the tightness in my chest. You're cutting me off from financial privileges because my career isn't impressive enough? We're reallocating family resources to projects with clear returns, George replied, his businessman tone overshadowing his role as a father. Philip and Sophia have shown sound judgment, while you're just a burden to Eleanor. I opened my mouth to respond, but my phone buzzed in my pocket. I tried to ignore it, focusing on the argument. You never asked what I actually do, I said, my voice rising slightly. Not once, in a meaningful way. You decided long ago my work was worthless because it didn't fit your narrow definition of success. The phone buzzed again, persistently. 2, then 3 calls in a row. Karen, my assistant's emergency signal. CLA is in Stanford, Sophia muttered, as if that explained everything. The phone buzzed a 4th time and all eyes turned to me. Maybe you should answer, Aunt Beatrice whispered, her tone suggestive. It seems urgent. I hesitated, then pulled out the phone, seeing Karen's name flashing. George sighed dramatically, as if I'd broken an unspoken table rule. Of course, he said sarcastically. Your little startup crisis can't wait until after dinner? I stood, stepping back from the table but staying in the dining room, ensuring the family could hear. Karen, what's up? I asked, loud enough for the room. What happened next will stay with me forever. Andrew, Karen's voice rang out, so excited it silenced everyone. I've been trying to reach you. Kleiner Perkins just confirmed a $50 million investment. MedConnect AI's valuation is officially $150 million pre-IPO. The Goldman Sachs team is popping champagne. Silence engulfed the dining room, broken only by Margaret's soft gasp and the clink of Sophia's wine glass. Great news, I replied, calm despite my racing heart, watching the Prescotts' faces shift from disdain to confusion. Can you repeat the details? Karen, unaware of the drama, continued enthusiastically. They love our vision. The investment terms include stock options for the team, and Forbes confirmed an interview with you. They're putting you on the future billionaires list. The Hospital Association wants you as the keynote speaker at their annual conference. The chairman called personally. Thanks, Karen, I said, as she paused to breathe. Set up a team meeting tomorrow morning to discuss next steps. I hung up, slowly returning to my seat. The silence lingered, awkward until Aunt Beatrice burst out laughing, a genuine sound cutting through the tension. Well, she said, raising her wine glass. Looks like a toast is in order. The scene before me almost made up for years of being dismissed. 5 faces frozen in varying shades of shock and disbelief. Margaret recovered first, her social instincts kicking in. Andrew, darling, that's wonderful news. Why didn't you tell us about your business success? George, his face shifting from confusion to calculation, seemed to reassess me in real time. $150 million, he repeated slowly. Valuation for your medical app. Philip looked like he'd been slapped, his mouth agape. You're working with Goldman Sachs? He stammered, voice unsteady. Which team? David Rosenberg, I replied, knowing the name would stun him. Sophia, unable to stay quiet, forced a smile. That's impressive, Andrew. I always knew you had potential. Her fakeness nearly made me laugh. Really? I asked softly. That's not what you said. George cleared his throat, trying to regain control. Clearly we misunderstood your professional situation, Andrew. Perhaps we should revisit the earlier discussion. Eleanor, who hadn't spoken, had a complex look in her eyes. Only Aunt Beatrice seemed truly delighted. Revisit? I asked evenly. You just said I wasn't worthy of the Prescott legacy. Now what? One phone call, and I'm suddenly worthy? Silence returned, heavier this time. This moment I knew was just the start of a new game with the Prescotts. But this time, I'd play by my rules. Don't be difficult, darling, Eleanor interjected. Your father's trying to fix a small misunderstanding. Not a misunderstanding, I replied. You made it clear. My choices don't align with Prescott values. My career isn't prestigious enough. I don't contribute to the family legacy, just a burden. We were worried because you seemed to be struggling, Eleanor said. You never mentioned this success. Wonder why, Aunt Beatrice muttered into her wine, nearly making me laugh. How much are you worth? Sophia asked bluntly, always focused on numbers. I looked at her, considering. MedConnect AI is valued at $150 million pre-IPO. I own 51% of the company. A quick calculation silenced the table again. Over $75 million, George said cautiously. On paper for now, I confirmed. The IPO could double that at least. And we're starting international expansion next quarter. Eleanor reached across the table, grabbing my hand, a gesture so unfamiliar I flinched. Darling, that's wonderful news. We need to celebrate properly. I'll call the club to arrange a special dinner. No need, I cut in gently, pulling my hand back. You only decided those things didn't matter because they didn't fit your definition of success. Eleanor looked bewildered. But darling, now that we understand the situation, we want to support you properly. Now that you know I'm rich, I corrected softly. That's not support. Aunt Beatrice hid a smile with a slight cough. That's unfair, Eleanor protested. We're family. Families support each other's success. Really, I asked, where was that an hour ago? George, ever pragmatic, tried another tack. The past is the past, Andrew. Let's focus on the future. The Prescott network can open doors that would otherwise stay closed. I looked at him, thoughtful. What doors can a $150 million company with Goldman Sachs as its IPO underwriter open? He had no answer. I appreciate the sudden interest in my career, I said, standing up and grabbing my bag. But I think I'll leave now. I have an early meeting tomorrow. You're leaving, Eleanor panicked. We haven't even had dessert. We need to discuss media strategies, your investment plans. Your father has excellent wealth management connections. I have financial advisors, I said, and a PR team, lawyers, every professional service I need. But we're family, Eleanor insisted. Andrew, don't rush off. Family ties matter more than temporary disagreements. I agree, I said, which is why I'll take time to think about the relationship I want with this family. I turned to Aunt Beatrice, who watched the scene with a mix of pride and sadness. Want to come along? She gathered her things immediately. Gladly. As we headed for the door, Sophia called after me, refusing to admit defeat. Andrew, we're hosting a dinner next weekend for my husband's political donors. It'd be great if you came and spoke about healthcare innovation. I paused at the door, turning back for one last look at the table, the lavish dining room, expensive wine, and a family that only saw me when I became valuable to them. I'll check my schedule, I said politely. But fair warning, my speaking fee for political events starts at $50,000. With that, Aunt Beatrice and I stepped into the cool evening air, leaving the Prescott legacy to digest the truth that their current greatest success was the one they just declared cut off. Karen's call had turned the tables, but it wasn't the Prescott's shock that satisfied me. It was the moment I realized I didn't need their validation to know my worth. Driving through Bel Air's winding roads, I dropped Aunt Beatrice at her Westwood apartment. Silence filled the car until she broke it with a soft laugh. A $50,000 speaking fee, she said, her voice full of delight. Margaret nearly swallowed her pearl strand. I couldn't help but laugh. I don't actually charge for speeches, but for Sophia's husband, I might double it. That smug guy, Beatrice said, winking. I'd pay to see that. We pulled up to her complex, but neither of us rushed apart. You knew about MedConnect AI, didn't you? I asked. She smiled. I read the text section in the Los Angeles Times, Andrew. Your company was mentioned a few months ago. I waited for you to share when you were ready. I just got used to keeping it separate from family. For good reason, she said, patting my hand. George and I grew up with the same message. Success is measured by elite schools, powerful clubs, and the right investments. It took me until 50 to break free of that mindset. I haven't fully broken free, I said. I still went to that dinner, still craved their acceptance to some degree. That's human nature, not weakness, she corrected gently. Everyone wants family love. The difference is you didn't trade your true self to get it. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. What will you do with this family now? She asked. I considered the question. Set boundaries, clearly. I won't play along with their sudden interest. And Eleanor. As I kicked off my shoes and poured a glass of wine, my phone lit up with notifications. A text from George. We should discuss investment strategies for your new position. Lunch tomorrow at the club? An email from Eleanor. Darling, I've added you to the guest list for next month's Symphony Gala. The chairman wants to discuss a donation from your company. A text from Philip. Nice play, brother-in-law. Coffee soon? Want to hear more about opportunities in healthcare tech? And most blatantly, from Sophia. My husband wants your input on a healthcare platform for his campaign. Is MedConnect AI considering donations? P.S. I want to introduce you to my friend Charles, Harvard med grad. Wealthy family. Great match. I set the phone down, unanswered, and called Karen. I'm sorry, she said immediately. I didn't know you were at a family dinner. I should have been more discreet. Don't apologize, I cut in. Your timing was perfect. Really? She sighed in relief. How'd they take the news? As expected, I replied. Suddenly my computer hobby is fascinating, and I'm invited to guest lists I never qualified for before. Ouch, Karen said, her tone sympathetic. What'll you do? Focus on what matters, I said firmly. We have an IPO to prepare, hospital systems to support, and real lives to improve. Family drama can wait. By the way, Karen switched to work mode. The team wants to celebrate the Kleiner Perkins news. Morning meeting at 8? Perfect, I agreed. And Karen, order the good champagne. The team deserves it. After hanging up, I stepped onto the balcony, gazing at Los Angeles's twinkling lights. For years I'd lived in two worlds, a failure at family dinners and a successful CEO in boardrooms. Now those worlds had collided, and I needed to figure out how to make them coexist. The next morning, I arrived at MedConnect AI's Culver City office. The 35-person team, developers, designers, healthcare experts and admins, gathered in the glass-walled conference room. They looked at me with expectant eyes, people who believed in my vision when few others did. Before we pop champagne, I said, setting my bag down, I want to thank each of you. What we've built isn't just valuable in the market. It's valuable because it matters. Every day patients connect with specialists through the technology we created. Karen handed me a flute of champagne and raised hers. To MedConnect AI, she said, and to Andrew, who saw what healthcare could be while others were stuck in the present. After the celebration, I returned to my office, finding a massive bouquet on my desk with a card from Margaret, proud of our talented son-in-law. Love, mother and father. I stared at the card, laughing at the absurdity. Just 24 hours ago, they'd declared me cut off from the family estate for being a burden to their daughter. Now I was their talented son-in-law. Then I got back to real work, finalizing IPO paperwork, reviewing international expansion plans, and prepping for a Forbes interview. The Prescotts' reconciliation attempts I knew were just beginning, but I was ready to set boundaries, not out of anger, but because I no longer needed their validation to know who I was. In the weeks following that fateful evening at the Prescott mansion, I kept my distance from my wife's family's insincere reconciliation efforts. Eleanor's calls for reconciliation went to voicemail, George's lunch invitations received polite but firm declines, and Sophia's texts, trying to leverage MedConnect AI's success for her husband's political campaign, went ignored. The only family tie I nurtured was with Aunt Beatrice. One afternoon, she visited MedConnect AI's Culver City office for an official tour. Remarkable, she said, watching engineers demo the platform. You've built something that helps people. That was always the goal, I told her. High valuations are nice, but not the point. That's exactly why you succeeded where others failed, she remarked, her voice full of wisdom. You solved a real problem instead of chasing money. As we walked through the office, employees greeted me with genuine respect, not the fearful deference I'd seen at George's firm, but appreciation from a team with a shared purpose. You've created a family here, Beatrice noted, as we returned to my office. A chosen family. Looking around MedConnect AI's vibrant space, I realized she was right. While seeking validation from the Prescotts, I'd built a community that valued dedication over lineage, innovation over tradition, and purpose over prestige. That realization was worth more than any IPO valuation. The following months were a whirlwind. MedConnect AI's IPO exceeded all expectations, hitting a $300 million valuation on its first trading day. My paper wealth surpassed $150 million, more than the Prescotts' combined assets. This financial milestone made headlines, but our impact metrics were what truly satisfied me. 450 hospitals nationwide used our platform, connecting over 35,000 patients daily to specialists. Critical consultation wait times dropped from weeks to days, sometimes hours. Lives were improved, even saved, thanks to our technology. Media attention was intense. Forbes, Wall Street Journal, CNBC, all wanted the healthcare tech pioneer story. I gave interviews, focusing on the technology and its impact, deliberately dodging personal questions about family or relationships. My first major post-IPO decision was founding the Hayes Innovation Fund, a $20 million initiative to support youth, especially young women, in healthcare technology. The fund's name was deliberate. I was redefining the Hayes legacy my way. Its initial program was a scholarship for girls from underserved communities, offering coding boot camps and mentorship from female tech leaders. When reporters asked if the fund was named for my family, I simply said, "It's named for me." My relationship with the Prescott family became something more controlled. Eleanor and I separated, and a divorce may follow. I took a few lunches with George, keeping talk to neutral topics like Los Angeles weather or the Dodgers prospects. Margaret's attempts to parade me at social events were politely declined, except for a Los Angeles Children's Hospital fundraiser where MedConnect AI was a major sponsor. I accepted Sophia's wedding invitation but noted I'd attend alone and leave after the ceremony due to work commitments. My deepest connection was with Aunt Beatrice. She joined the Hayes Innovation Fund's board, bringing her academic experience and feminist perspective to funding decisions. We dined weekly, and she became a trusted mentor for both personal and professional matters. "You've handled them well," she said over one dinner. "Respectful but with boundaries." "It's still tough sometimes," I admitted. "Part of me wants them to truly understand and value what I've built, not just its monetary worth." "That may never happen," she said gently. "Your success exists in a framework they don't fully grasp. They see the numbers, not the vision behind them." Sipping wine, I gazed at the ocean. My greatest success wasn't the paper wealth or Forbes articles. It was the freedom to live authentically, without needing validation from those who once dismissed me. Andrew Hayes' story in At the Family Meeting, "My wife cut me off, then my assistant called CEO," reflects today's U.S. societal pressures and values, where success is often measured by wealth, status, and others' approval, especially in competitive cities like Los Angeles. Andrew, a middle-class Pasadena native, faces disdain from the wealthy, powerful Prescott family, representing an elite class with rigid standards of prestige and hierarchy. Their decision to cut him off financially for his unworthy tech career mirrors a culture that prioritizes traditional fields like finance or entertainment over tech innovation. Yet Andrew's success with MedConnect AI, reaching a $300 million valuation, and his choice to keep it secret to protect his passion, show that perseverance and self-respect can overcome societal pressure. Karen Lim's call, revealing the $150 million pre-IPO valuation during the family dinner, is a triumphant moment, but the deeper lesson lies in Andrew's personal journey. He found self-worth not through Prescott validation but through his work's real impact, like connecting 35,000 patients daily to doctors. His founding of the Hayes Innovation Fund to support underserved youth, especially young women in tech, reflects today's U.S. ethos of successful entrepreneurs giving back to the community. Advice: in American society, where pressure from family, friends, or social media can make you doubt your path, learn from Andrew. Stay committed to your passion, even if it doesn't fit others' norms. Don't wait for approval from those who don't see your vision, like the Prescotts with Andrew. Focus on creating real value, like MedConnect AI's healthcare improvements, and build a supportive community like Andrew's team or Aunt Beatrice. Finally, use your success to inspire, as Andrew did with helping the next generation overcome barriers you once faced. Subscribe and share my story to inspire those persevering with their passions despite doubt. Thank you for joining me, and see you in the next video, where we explore more journeys of overcoming pressure to define success.